If we don't succeed by the measure we've given ourselves or other people around us, well, that's data. You learn from it, and you just go back and do it again better, or you may go, well, I shouldn't be doing that. That's the wrong thing to do. Everywhere's the same. There isn't any particular I don't know, bias to each profession. I mean, I think if you've got, say, a thoughtful profession like law, okay, they'll behave in a thoughtful way, and the military they'll run their procedures through their heads and what have you. But people are people, and what you find is that under pressure, the individual shines. I think that's the thing, is that, and that individual might be a nurse, it might be a teacher, might be a CEO, but I think pressure is the ultimate exposer of who you are, really. When I ran my first company, my team used to say to me, we hate it when small things go wrong because you blow your top, but when really big things go wrong, you're so calm. And so sometimes small things happen and we'll say, make it worse, because then you'll be calm. And I think I didn't deal with stress back in the day. I do now, but I think stress is amazing. And there's a lovely expression that, calm waters do not good sailors make. And so that pressure's good for you. It's good for you. It really toughens you up and teaches you. We are hardwired for stories more than anything in the world. It goes back to the campfire in the cave as prehistoric man and woman. It's anyone who doesn't realize that story is everything is mad. I mean, 85% of TED Talks are made up of stories, and they should be. Because that's what we connect with. I mean, the most powerful beginning to any sentence in the world is once upon a time. And I love it. And if someone says once upon a time, they've still got my attention. Like, what are you going to say? What's going to happen now? Is there going to be a dragon? And seriously, I love, I think story there's something about, because the thing about stories, you have to empathize. And empathy is the golden ingredient. And so when a princess is stuck in a tower, you empathize with, well, you're trapped. I don't want you to be trapped, and then obviously in the old days, a knight would come along and do the right thing, protect her and all that. Nowadays, you've got Tangled, and she gets herself out, and that's lovely, but stories create empathy, and empathy is the golden emotion between humans. Learned helplessness is ubiquitous. It is everywhere, and it really is something you have to be so vigilant against. It's a funny one. So learned helplessness is where, in life, as in business, we have so many setbacks. We hear the word no, or we failed, or you're a salesperson and she's on her 100th call and she hasn't sold the last 99 times, so she just thinks, I'm not going to sell this. We learned helplessness is giving up, frankly, is where you just, you set out with dreams, but then you just learn to be helpless. And that's my talk, the flea jar, builds on that, because if you take a flea and you put it in a jar with a lid, it'll jump up and down and you'll hear a tick tick tick, but then the tick 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 will stop, because even fleas aren't that stupid, and it will start adjusting its height just below the lid. And when you take the lid off, instead of jumping for the skies, it actually just stays there, because it's developed learned helplessness. And that's what I see when I go into all stripes of organizations, and it's a very sad cognitive bias that can afflict an entire company, but it's fixable. And that's why I get excited and give my talks. I think the entire attitude towards experience changes to a wonderful positive. Most of life is failing. I've got a guitar here, and when you pick up a guitar for the first time, you fail for weeks and months, and then you succeed, and you go, I can strum tunes now. And we don't realise that, watch a child walk, they fail for about a year or 6 months, whatever it is, and then they succeed. And we have this thing where failure is this bad thing. And I've got two grown-up girls, amazing characters, and I've said to them growing up, the definition of failure is not even trying. If you try, you haven't failed. You're already a success in my books. Because and the thing as well is, once we do try and we get in the race, if we don't succeed by the measure we've given ourselves or other people around us, well, that's data. You learn from it, and you just go back and do it again better, or you may go, well, I shouldn't be doing that. That's the wrong thing to do. Nelson Mandela said, I never fail. I either win or I learn. And that's my attitude to failure. Well, because I don't think we realise just how influenced we are by our environment. I grew up on a council estate, and we had very low expectations culturally across the estate. And most of my friends went on to have very modest careers, and very humble careers, a lot of them. Some of them ended up in jail. This was not. Some of them ended up dead. This is, and of course, if you grow up in that environment versus growing up in a very posh area where everyone's going to private school, and everyone's got lovely cars, and all the parents do amazing things, so the children grow up with expectations of great careers. Well, those two children have got a very different start in life. And then if you take, we all can get that. We go, yeah, I get Britain, rich versus poor. Well, just take it around the world. You go to Zambia, and where I've done copper mining, and they've got rather beautiful attitude a lot of the time. A lot of people I met were just very simple. I just want enough money to put food on the table. What about things? And I don't want things. I want food on the table. I want to take Friday night off. It's beautiful. And I think what we have to do in a global organisation is to celebrate the differences, learn from each other, say, well, that's a nice attitude over there, and all these things, but then find a common language that pulls the companies together, that absolutely makes everybody realise that, yes, I'm celebrating being Danish, I'm celebrating being, a Norwegian, whatever, but or Zambian, but actually, and that's brilliant. I want that to be alive and kicking in my company, in my part of the company. But we have to have this common language where we all unify, and we all realise we are a massive boon to each other, a massive bonus. And so, yeah, so there's differences and bonuses. Oh, I think it's over. I think we should all quit. I don't know why we're doing this interview. I think it's time to just knock it on the head. I think that AI will actually eventually prove exciting. I'm afraid it's all hype. I don't believe it for a second. I'm afraid, I just don't. It's not artificial intelligence, it's machine learning. AI is a marketing term. There is no AI. It's a marketing term. It's machine learning. And LLMs have kind of peaked. OpenAI, ChatGPT and all these things, they've kind of peaked. And what we're going to see now is what they call the application stage, where the apps that are built on top of those engines are going to get better and better. And I think they'll be really good, and they'll be really useful. So I think AI will prove really useful. I think a lot of grunt work will go. I don't think the threats of it taking everyone's jobs are true. I think lots of companies will mistakenly try that. I think certain tasks will be taken away, but then that should free people up to use the human edge, because what people want is humans. If I go into a law firm, frankly, I quite like the fact that in the background we've all got a really solid AI system for doing documentation and communication. I'm happy with that. I want the person. And is that person really smart? And are they able to think creatively and innovatively about my problem? And can they give me the confidence I want to be guided through the ambiguity that is the legal process? So I think in a funny sort of way, the less we have to do, the more we're free to be. And I think that's rather beautiful. And I think the smartest companies, the smartest law firms, and all these other companies right now are saying, right, we need to upskill your human skills, because they are going to be everything in the future. The chairs. I hope they take a chair each, so they've got something out of it. But that aside, I want them to change. I started giving the talk, The Flea Jar, as a passionate response to what I saw in the workplace, because I've been a Moonshot strategist, which is a very sort of ambitious business strategist. I've been a Moonshot strategist for over a decade, and I kept seeing very smart people thinking much smaller than they needed to, and I became obsessed with it. And I realised it was cognitive biases, limiting beliefs. And I thought, well, how do I fix that? I don't want people to suffer from that. And the funny thing is, if you just say, oh, you're suffering from this cognitive bias, people kind of dig in a bit. It doesn't really work. You have to come at it from a different angle. And we go back to story, where by telling stories about this is how we get through it, and actually that creativity is the way out, thinking innovatively, you can be liberated to do much bigger thinking. So when I have those talks to companies, we have my keynote, and then we go into a workshop where people have fantastic ideas because they've changed. So I want people to change. I want people to leave having much more belief in themselves and much more belief in their organisations and what they can achieve as a team. So change.